Dear viewers, you wake up one morning, you want to make chai, you turn on the stove, nothing. You check the cylinder, empty. You open the app to book a refill. It says delivery in 7 days. 7 days. You call the gas agency, no one picks up. You go there in person. There is a line stretching out the gate, down the street. People holding empty cylinders like they are queuing for something rationed during a war, which, as it turns out, they kind of are. This is not a scene from some remote village. This is happening right now. In Noida, in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Chennai, across India's cities, millions of households are struggling to get LPG cylinders. Hotels are shutting their kitchens. Small restaurants are cutting menus. And a woman in UP reportedly paid rupees 1500 for a single cylinder that should cost a fraction of that on the black market. Meanwhile, the government is on television saying there is no shortage. Let that sink in. Hello, I am Tejas and you're watching Honest Take on Lokmat Times. In this video, let's explore factually whether there is an LPG shortage, whether the government is actually lying about it, and if yes, who all are responsible for it. But before we dive in, I need you to listen to me for a moment. You watch our videos, you share them, and you leave comments that truly keep us motivated. We see every bit of that support and we are genuinely grateful. But here is the thing. Nearly 90% of you watching right now still haven't subscribed to the channel, and that needs to change. I know you won't let us down, so take a second, hit that subscribe button, and then let's jump right in, because this is a story you don't want to miss. First, the facts, because you deserve them. India consumes roughly 31.3 million metric tons of LPG every year. That's a lot of cylinders, a lot of chai, rotis and dal. And the demand has gone up more than 44% in just 8 years, driven by government schemes that connected millions of homes to cooking gas for the first time. That's a genuinely good thing. But here is where the story gets uncomfortable. India only produces about 12.8 million metric tons of LPG domestically. The rest, 55 to 60% of the entire country's cooking gas is imported. And about 90% of those imports come from one region, the Middle East, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, just 4 countries. For every 10 cylinders Indians use, roughly 6 come off a ship from the Gulf. And right now, those ships are in trouble. So what is happening in Gulf? As you all must know by now, a military conflict involving Iran, the US and Israel has turned the Persian Gulf into one of the most dangerous waterways on earth. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow channel through which a massive chunk of the world's LPG, crude oil and gas is shipped, has been disrupted. Ships are being rerouted, insurance premiums are spiking, voyage times are longer, and some cargoes aren't sailing at all. Kuwait has declared force majeure on hydrocarbon deliveries. Qatar, historically India's largest LPG supplier, has also indicated supply constraints. That means the contracts India signed, the deliveries it was counting on, some of that is simply not arriving on schedule. Freight rates are up, shipping timelines are unpredictable, and a supply chain that was already running tight with almost no buffer built in has started showing cracks. This is the real trigger. The war is real, the disruption is also real. But truth be told, this was also entirely predictable. For years, not months, for years, India has known that it imports more than half of its cooking gas from a region that has never been geopolitically stable. The Middle East has had crises in 2003, 2006, 11, 15, 19, 23 and now in 26. This is not surprising terrain, and yet domestic LPG production grew by just 1.6 million metric tons between 2017 and 2025. The gap between what India produces and what it consumes has quietly widened year after year, filled by ever more imports from every more concentrated sources. There were no serious moves to diversify suppliers. Though small deals with the US for LPG have been in the works, they remain tiny relative to the scale of imports. There were no meaningful strategic reserves built for LPG the way we have strategic petroleum reserves for crude. The distribution system, bottling plants, distributor godowns, port buffers, was calibrated for normal, predictable shipments, not for a multi-week disruption of Gulf traffic. Nobody planned for this. Or rather, everyone knew it was possible and nobody acted like it was. So what has the government done so far, and what is it saying? To be fair, the government has moved. When the crisis hit, it invoked the Essential Commodities Act. It asked refineries to divert propane and butane streams, feedstocks that normally go to petrochemicals, toward LPG production instead. According to officials, This has pushed domestic LPG output by roughly 25% in the short term. It also extended the gap between cylinder bookings, first from 14 days to 21 days, then to 25 days, now 30 days for households with double connections, to stop panic booking from draining distributor stock. It has reportedly invoked the Essential Services Maintenance Act, which effectively bars workers in refineries and gas distribution from going on strike. And on March 7th, it raised LPG prices, rupees 60 more for the domestic 14.2 kg cylinder, rupees 115 more for commercial 19 kg cylinders. These are real actions. They suggest a real emergency. But the government's mouth kept saying something else. Even as all of this was happening, official sources were briefing media that there is sufficient stock, that supplies are normal, that 60 lakh cylinders are being supplied every day just like before. So which is it? Are things fine, or are we invoking emergency laws, redirecting industrial production and extending booking intervals? You can't do both and pretend they don't contradict each other. This doublespeak isn't just confusing, it is actively harmful. When the government says no shortage while people stand in lines for hours, it doesn't calm anyone down. It makes people distrust everything they are told. And distrust is what feeds panic booking. Panic booking is what drains distributor stocks. And drained distributor stocks are what give black marketers their opening. But the government is not the only one to blame. There are other players as well. Let's talk about them briefly because they deserve naming. The hoarders, the distributors inflating waiting lists, the middlemen diverting commercial cylinders, the people charging rupees 1500 to rupees 3000 for a cylinder that a household is entitled at a subsidized price, preying on desperation, monetizing fear. The law is clear. Under the Essential Commodities Act, holding and black marketing of LPG is a punishable offense. The government's own emergency orders mention the need to crack down on this, which means they know it is happening. Enforcement is the test. It is easy to invoke laws. Actually protecting the woman in UP who paid rupees 1500 for her cylinder, that is harder. And that is where accountability will be measured. So who is actually bearing the cost for this mismanagement? It is not the minister. It is not the refinery executive. It is not the official giving reassuring briefings on television. It is the restaurant owner in Chandni Chowk who has cut half his menu because his commercial cylinder hasn't arrived in 10 days. It is the tiffin service in Pune run by a family of 4 that has stopped taking orders because they can't be sure the gas will come. It is the daily wage cook at a dhaba who has been told to stay home because the kitchen is shut. It is the low-income household that has gone back to burning wood and kerosene, undoing a decade of clean cooking progress because the cylinder did not arrive and they can't afford to wait. These people are paying the price of a structural vulnerability they had no hand in creating. So here is my honest take. The West Asia conflict is a real shock. No one is denying that. India cannot control what happens in the Strait of Hormuz, but India could have controlled how exposed it was to that strait. It did not. It could have built strategic LPG buffers. It did not. It could have diversified suppliers over a decade of rising import dependence. It barely started. It could have been straight with citizens when the crisis hit, explaining the real situation, laying out a clear plan, and treating people as adults capable of handling hard truths. Instead, it managed headlines and hoped the queues would go away. The government moved fast once the crisis was visible. Credit where it's due, but moving fast in a crisis is the minimum. The real question is why the crisis was this severe in the first place. Why a country of 1.4 billion people with a flagship clean cooking scheme was sitting on a supply chain with almost no cushion against a disruption that was always a real possibility. The answer is not a mystery. It's a decade of choices or the lack of them. And while policymakers figure out the next press statement, the woman with the empty cylinder is still in the line. And that is your honest take. If you found this analysis useful, do share it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to Lokmat Times for more such stories.